Hi, my name is Barry Crampton and welcome to another edition of Not the Evangelist News. This is all stemmed from a tweet I did last week. A few things have stemmed from this tweet. A couple of things a little bit short-sighted of me. One was being a bit playful, teasing the EV crowd, because I knew what they'd think. I couldn't believe it actually happened, but a lady turned up on the forecourt and she was almost out of, well, she wasn't almost out, she had 14 miles, but she had to get home. She's obviously had problems with chargers before. She was distraught. The app had directed her to our forecourt. We don't have a charger, a fast charger at our forecourt. The mistake was the charger was installed at Grosvenor Garage while it was still Grosvenor Garage before the co-op had bought it from John. They'd installed, the first thing they did was install a charger. That was probably part of the conditions to get planning permission to change it from a garage to a co-op. And ZapMap had put down Grosvenor Garage. The lady had come to Grosvenor Garage, which is us. They're now the co-op. And she was absolutely, she was upset. I took her to the garage and made sure she was all right. And then when I got back, and to be honest, it was when she was reversing onto the charger, I thought, all this aggravation I get off EV people, this'll show them. So when I got back, I then took the footage off the CCTV cameras to show exactly as it has happened, knowing full well, because one of my sayings is, of all the things that never happened, this never happened the most. So I expected this. This is the tweet. A lady pulled up on our forecourt and was looking at her phone. I was taking some price boards out and I saw she was crying. She was almost out of charge in her EV and needed to find a charger quick. She also needed to get home. I can tell you she will never buy another EV. And then a little bit more, which I've gone to in another treat. Okay, let the vitriol begin, release the EV wrath. Now, I've never known anything like EVs and ICE with the hate that's induced because I drive a car with a different propulsion system than you hate me. It's crazy really, but there's one in particular. This guy's a complete idiot. Honestly, he's horrible. He's just a horrible person. There's a few of them, and they seem to have a horrible person EV club. Anyway, anti-EV idiots. Well, I'm anti-EV idiots, and this guy is, well, I wouldn't say he's the biggest idiot because there's so many. Fuke's sake, he has taken to making shit up now? ? Well, am I or not? I wonder if he has any evidence. He has full-on EVDS now, doesn't he? Don't know what that means. Not particularly bothered. Taken to making shit up. Now, I'd posted the CCTV. I'd done a video on it. A chap called Ian Chalkland. He's posted the video from the garage CCTV on YouTube, and it's as he described. EV Foodbuster got a link. Ian Chalkland. Barry Crampton titled Range Anxiety and posted yesterday. Then we get one of our other friends, Kate Florence and James. Now remember Kate Florence and James, because I had a discussion with her ages ago, and it didn't end well, to be honest. Didn't particularly bother me, but there you go. So Kate Florence and James, now she's from Cleveley Autos. They service EVs, and they're a big EV mouthpiece. They sell EVs too. Look like they're doing really good, and I was going to say I actually wanted to get involved, but I had a business idea ages ago, and when I looked, I thought they would be perfect people to discuss it with, and who knows, move forward. But I decided not to, and I'll go into the reasons anyway. But Kate, this Cleveley Autos, I've looked, he has nothing on there that I can see. Can we have a link, please? EV Foodbuster. No, it's not there. Maybe someone has already commented saying, hang on, Bazza, isn't that your cousin? So he took it down. So he's making up stories in his head. EV Fudbuster, my cousin died last year from, and you'll love this, from COVID with complications. She had COPD. The COVID killed her. She sat down in a chair, was having difficulty breathing. She died. So I can assure you it's not my cousin unless she's come back to haunt me. She actually liked me, so she wouldn't do that. So it's not my cousin. Kate, Florence and James. I did think it sounded a tad far-fetched on the description, but I'm always open to some fair evidence. It would have been his most recent videos, but I can't find it. Now, she's always open to some fair evidence. Now, in the past, I've given her lots of fair evidence to contradict what she was saying. And she wasn't open to that. I mean, lots. And 50 years in the motor trade, I would hope that would command a little bit of respect, but not from her. She knows better. Fair enough. When I was her age, well, actually, when I was young, when I was a teenager, I thought I knew everything, but then I learned to respect my elders. So we're on to EV Fudbusters again. Agreed. Sounded like a tall tale, and if it was anyone else, I might have been inclined to believe it. He'll be reading all this and no doubt will take to YouTube on another one of his rants. That's the first thing he said that's right. The first thing. If it was anyone else, I might have been inclined to believe it. So, nobody's ever caught me out on any lies. I always back everything up with evidence. I've got experience in the motor trade. I can sell anything, whether it's EVs, it's not a problem. I just don't like lies about EVs. I don't like lies about ICE cars. And if you go back through my tweets, you will see, going back years and years, I've pulled people up on, I've pulled Auto Trader up. I've been a thorn in their side with write-offs. Absolute thorn in their side until they actually started marking write-offs with a little sign. They weren't EVs, they were ICE cars. So even back in the day, I didn't like liars. So, Kate, Florence and James. He blocked us long ago after a conversation he didn't like. Now I'm going to put you straight here, Kate. The conversation was fine. It was you I didn't like. I didn't like your attitude. I didn't like the things you said. I didn't like the fact you were misleading people, in my opinion. I pointed out why I thought you were misleading people. I pointed out the problem with brakes. In fact, the conversation was about brakes, about brake disc and pads, and about she'd put that one of their MGs had done 100,000 miles. They were looking at the brakes. And she'd got a set of brake pads, showed the new ones and the old ones looked like brand new. So she's going to pop the new ones back in the box for another 100,000 miles. Well, that's not the norm. It isn't the norm. And I pointed to some other articles, one by a husband, I think it is, in which he said that it's not wear that usually kills discs or EV brakes. They warp or seize up. But it doesn't matter. The thing is, if it's worse if the calipers seize up, that's worse than wearing your brakes out. If you wear your brakes out, they're working. If the calipers seize up, they're not working. If the calipers seize up, you can't brake when you need to. If a caliper seizes up on one side and the other side's working, you brake and all of a sudden you swerve over. You're not braking in a straight line. There's all sorts of problems can happen. A caliper costs a lot more than a set of brake pads. It's false economy saying that it doesn't need brake pads. So it was stupid. And all sorts of other things you know, you get iron oxide, the discs rust up. When you do need to use them, if you're just using regen all the time, the discs rust up. They don't work properly. When you put your foot on the brake, you've got to clear all the rust off first before you actually get to the proper 100% braking. So regen, in my opinion, is dangerous and bad, and it's false economy because it doesn't save you money. You end up having to spend more money to have your discs done, your calipers done, your pads, then it saves you in electric. So the conversation, it wasn't the conversation I didn't like. It was, Kate, it was you. I don't like you. And recently I've got to speak to your husband. I don't like him either. You know, I had a business idea and I just forgot it because I knew that I wouldn't be able to work with somebody like you. That's why, I promise you. But have you had the privilege of him doing a video about you? Well, Kate, you have now. To be honest, I don't give a shit about the market other than people like him delay the transition. Unfortunately, people buy into the FUD. It's why the House of Lords did a report on anti-EV propaganda. Now, there's anti-EV propaganda and there's the truth. I am doing my best to tell the truth and to back it up with proof. So if I say anything wrong, if I get it wrong, please tell me, please point me to the source. I will hold my hands up and I will apologise. I need EVs to catch on properly. I don't need people having them shoved up them, inserted with lies, with falsehoods, mistruths, deliberate lies, deliberately misleading people because you're being paid by somebody to promote the green agenda. So the House of Lords, I would say that I've disproved just about everything that has been said on here about tyres, about brakes, longevity, about pricing, about being cheap to run. They're not cheap to run. They cost more to run. On the whole, they cost more to run than a nice car. A small EV, which I've proved again, costs more to run than a 5-litre Mustang. It costs more to run than a 5-litre Mustang if you pay for trees to be planted in the UK or all over the world to offset your carbon footprint. It's still cheap to run a Mustang. Look back on my videos. Now this is good here. Kate, Florence and James again. To be honest, I don't think anyone takes any notice of him. He comes across as an angry bloke and his very obvious obsession with EVs is unhealthy. So Kate's a psychiatrist as well, which is good because so is her husband. Her husband's a psychiatrist too. So they're really lost fixing EVs. He'd do better to simply promote what he believes in. I believe in the motor trade. I love the motor trade. I'm retiring at the end of this month, hopefully. I've had a fantastic time in the motor trade. I've had so many laughs. It's not good for making money. Car sales anyway isn't good for making money, if I'm honest. It's hard work, lots of ups and downs, just about more ups than downs, but now it's not. Now it's more downs. Now EVs have come onto the scene, it's more downs. People are going out of business, factories are shutting, people are realising they've got ripped off with a car, they've been sold something that doesn't do what it says on the tin. So he comes across as an angry bloke. I'll tell you who comes across as angry. People who have been missold things. People who think the tyres are going to last 40 to 45,000 miles. People who think their brake discs are going to last 100,000 miles and they don't. People who have been told that you get a free holiday as an unintended consequence of having an EV. You get a free holiday. People who've been told that when they realise that the car has dropped to less than the outstanding amount, that they could have bought an ICE car and that would have dropped less. even though their EV costs 10,000 more, it's now worth less than an ICE car that at the same age, same mileage, that costs less. You want to see them when they get angry when you tell them. You want to see them when they come in the garage and they've had an EV 2 months and they've realised it doesn't suit their needs and they're going to lose 10 grand. You want to see them because they don't immediately think the person who sold it me told a load of lies. They think, you're trying to nick my car. You're a thief. You're a used car salesman. You're all the same, you used car salesman. That's when they get mad. But our electric world, here we go. To be fair to Barry, there is an Instavolt charger on Google Maps showing as located at his garage. Note the postcode is the same as the one on the Instavolt app. Actual Instavolt charger is located at Co-op, 1 mile away on Chorley Road. Google Map mixed up, that needs removing. Now I've been onto them, and I think he got onto them as well. So he's back to, I mean, what have I done? I've decided to make a video. I've got my dead cousin. I've hired somebody's MG4 or whatever it is, and I've got my cameras there. I've got them seated to come here, and you know, and I've done that. And this story is, now I need Instavolt to put a charger on my forecourt, or mark it so there's a charger on my forecourt. But it's at the Co-op. It's at their old garage. You know, it takes a bit of doing. I mean, first of all, I've got to get the Co-op to come up with some money and buy this place off us. Then install a charger while it's still down as Grosvenor Garage on the postcode. And then I've got somebody at Instavolt, I've got to pay them to put it on our forecourt a mile away. Are you insane? Well, yes, I know you are, but it's like a sort of rhetorical question, that. So anyway, so they've checked it out. It wasn't a lie. That's not good enough for EV Fudbuster, anti-EV idiots. So why didn't the TW *T just tell her that it was a mile down the road, and with 14 miles remaining on her GOM, she would just be fine? Why didn't I tell her? Well, actually on the video you can see me directing her to the place, reassuring her that she's only a mile away. She didn't want to go. She was very, very upset. I did the gentlemanly thing, jumped in my car, took her to the fast charger and left her there, and she was sorted. As I say, not good enough for EV fun. Because I did that, I'm a TW. By the way, I'm trying not to swear. I'm trying to give up swearing. I'm actually trying to be nicer, replying to EV people. I'm doing my best. So let's go. He did. Sometimes people are having a bad day, and seeing how upset she was, he offered to help. That's the truth of it, I'm afraid. That's actually the truth. That's what happened. Cross my heart, hope today. In my family, I've only got my sister left. You know, swearing on people's lives. I do my best not to tell lies or mislead people. Always have done, always will. My mum, if I got into an argument with anybody at school or a fight, the first thing she'd say to me is, "What did you do first? What did you do first?" And that's what I do now. I'm the same. I look for a reason. So, let's go back to Kate and her husband. He blocked us long ago after a conversation he didn't like. as I say, I mean, I'm actually embarrassed for you. I really am embarrassed for you. Here's another one. Going back here, that was the tweet. On the right is an original TRW brake pad from our MG5 EV. It's covered 100,576 miles. On the left is a brand new Pattern Apex brake pad. It's going back in the box for another 100,000. I mean, to be fair, usually these days on servicing, you would, well, you can basically see through the wheel, and you can't see the inside pad, but you can see the outside pad. So why would they taken the wheel off in the first place? Why have they taken the brake pads out? Probably making sure the caliper was free, or how about this? How about they were freeing the caliper off? Let's make up stories, you know, like these people do about me. How about this one? The reason that brake pad isn't worn is because the caliper was seized and the brakes weren't working. How'd you like that for an alternate? You know, I mean, it just don't make sense. So we'll go down. Brake pads are not really expensive. Indeed, but brake particulate dust is very. Yes, it is. And so is iron oxide dust. In fact, iron oxide dust causes lung problems. When your discs go rusty and they're not kept clean by using your brakes, and then you use them, all this concentrated, you know, it comes off in a cloud. It's not every so often, miles up the road, every time you touch your brakes, it keeps your pads clean. Your discs go rusty, you're braking on regen, you're going up the road, little child and his puppy with his mum, side of the road, in the pram, the child's in the pram, puppy's tied to the pram, mum's there, walking up the road, lovely summer's day, with no masks on, COVID's gone, no masks, walking up the road. An MG5 that's been on regen, coming up the road, the lights change suddenly. Slams his brakes on, brakes come on, all the rust, because it's down here, it's pram height, all the rust comes off this EV's brake disc and goes in the child's pram. And the child's there. In the pram, it's all in the pram. It's enclosed, it's gone right in there, so it can't go past him because the hood's up as well. Mum's keeping the kid out of the sun. It's ginger, you know, burns easy. So all that iron oxide goes in there, little baby. That could happen. What do you think? Do you think it could? Iron oxide is very, very bad. Concentrated iron oxide is worse. Nasty stuff. Indeed, I often remind people what it does to alloys, let alone when we breathe it. You have a look at the next time you see an EV, have a look at the alloys on an EV and you'll see what colour they are. That's because it comes off in bursts, not, you know, every so often. Now then, here we go. Kate, Florence and James, November 19th, 2023. Our tyre lasts between 45 to 50,000 a set. Weight doesn't cause excess tyre wear. Well, it does. it does. Weight doesn't cause excess tyre wear, despite what you may read. It's torque and driving style. So torque is when you set off, right? And it's trying to grip to the road. That's when you set off. What happens when you slow down? Because it's the same. When you set off, you're trying to move, you're trying to overcome the forces that are keeping the EV, the big 2.5 ton EV in one place. You're trying to overcome that. So the tyres are trying to gain traction against the tarmac. So that's going forward. What happens when you brake then? Because it's trying to stop the same weight on the same tyres, the same contact patch on the same surface. But guess what? When somebody pulls out in front of you, when a child comes off the road, when a football comes out in front of you, when a cyclist comes off the pavement, whatever happens, and you slam your foot on the brake, you are trying to brake faster than you would normally try to accelerate. That is greater than the torque from setting off. So yes, it does. And I'm sad you can't understand that, to be honest. I really am sad. You're telling your followers, and she's got a few, 19,300 followers. So all these things that she's saying that to is wrong. Our tyre lasts between 45 to 50,000 a set. Weight doesn't cause excess tyre wear, despite what you might read. It's torque and driving style. Based on your 44 pistons handle, I'd expect you to have a slight grasp on that. Nasty. Bob on the end. Ew. And 44 pistons, I've shared many a tweet and discussion with him. But there you go, Kate going in there with a little rabbit punch there, right at the end, because she's an expert. Now, when you put stuff like that, 45 to 50,000 a set, my cars use tyres and brakes, unfortunately. Clearly your cars are magic, as they don't wear either. Rather contrary to the evidence from Barry Crampton that show EVs consistently eating both at alarming rates. Well, I've posted photographs, I've posted MOTs. I've actually posted MOTs from the cars in their stock, and also the cars that they've serviced, which clearly shows that brake pads and tyres don't last as long as they say they do, and that's their experience. So if they're just going to quote their experience of their own cars going up and down the motorway, that's not really fair. I would say that's misleading. They did say, I think they service over 800 Teslas, and again, it's a good business, or seemingly a good business. They're starting different people all the time. But one of the things also with starting different people is you can see what vehicles they're driving, and you can check their MOTs. And I'll just cut two in. So this person who's always said that your cars are magic, as they don't wear either. She's already upset him or insulted him once, and he's come back with his own kind of insult. This is how wars start. Kate, Florence and James, you're clearly struggling to read. So now he can't read. The car uses brakes and tyres, but at a much lesser rate than many others. I spoke with Barry before. He blocked us because he couldn't handle some actual facts. I wouldn't worry yourself though. The change is well underway. Stick to your SSVB setup. So now I couldn't handle some facts. Kate, you did not give me any facts. You didn't. You avoided them. When I showed you some cars that you had in your stock, which clearly didn't adhere to the story the stories that you've given here, you got nasty. This is a timeline of events. Tesla put out a tweet and it said regenerative braking enables you to bring your Tesla to a complete stop without using the brake pedal, maximising efficiency and reducing wear and tear. Also, traction and stability controls are active during regen, giving you more control during deceleration. I put my version of the tweet, a translation. Regenerative braking harvests power and saves you money on charging. You can put the money you save towards a new set of discs and pads on your next service / MOT, because they will all be rusted up due to lack of use. And God help you if you need to brake in an emergency. as the pads will have to scrub the rust off the discs first before they will work properly. And to be honest, if you need the car to brake for you, I'm not sure you should be on the road in the first place. Then Kate came back to me. I didn't initiate the tweets at all. She saw that and decided she wanted to answer as the fountain of all knowledge. That's partly true, but servicing takes care of it. Every second year we remove the pads and ensure they are free moving in the calipers. This only happens when owners don't have servicing carried out. Well, I think everybody on here that reads that will know that the big thing about EVs is they don't need servicing. And if they don't need servicing, they won't have the brakes freed off. If they don't have the brakes freed off, they will seize, warp, corrode, score, you name it. And that's what I was talking about in the first place. This is on May the 27th, 2023. And again, so I answered it back. Again, I beg to differ. City commutes and poor weather kill EV discs and cost more to replace than the money they save. Discs start going rusty within 20 to 30 minutes. If not used, the rust takes hold and either ruins the pads or the discs themselves. Then the very next day after we had that discussion, there was a tweet from Kate, again, fountain of all knowledge and absolutely correct on everything, can't be wrong, with some rather inaccurate info doing the rounds. It seems a balanced tweet is required. Kate's is obviously balanced, mine's not. Electric vehicle brake regeneration saves huge amounts of brake wear, particulate pollution and ultimately money. This is one of our neighbours' cars, an Audi, and one of our heavier MG5 work vans. The brake dust speaks for itself. With the timing of the tweet and our discussion the day before, I thought it was natural to assume that she was having a go at me. I assume that you're referring to my tweet, so I thought I would check the MOT history on a couple of cars that were for sale on your website. A Renault Zoe and a Nissan Leaf. Long story short, they seem to contradict what you are saying, both low mileage and showing premature disc corrosion and tyre wear, so perhaps you would like to correct it. Now, as I mentioned before, iron oxide forms on the discs. When they've not been used and you've been using your regen, they go rusty. When you need to use your brakes, the iron oxide flies off, and that's harmful too. So the brake discs, the brake pads are harmful, so are the brake discs. So the first car I checked was a Renault Zoe. Looked like a nice car, no reason to think it had been mistreated or neglected. But at 16,565 miles, near side front brake disc worn, pitted or scored, but not seriously weakened. Offside front brake disc worn, pitted or scored, but not seriously weakened. Near side front tyre slightly damaged and cracking or perishing. Offside front tyre slightly damaged, cracking or perishing. The car was four years old, I think, with 16,500 miles. So obviously those discs and the tyres ain't going to last 45,000 miles, as Quentin says, and the discs aren't going to last 100,000 miles. If you've still got them on in 100,000 miles, you ain't going to be braking anytime soon. The Nissan Leaf. To be honest, I think Nissan Leafs are absolute garbage. This one, 28,611 miles. Front inner brake disc worn, pitted or scored but not seriously weakened. Near side rear tyre slightly damaged, cracking or perishing. Offside rear tyre slightly damaged, cracking or perishing. Near side rear tyre worn close to legal limit, worn on edge to 3mm. Now tyre particulates are very, very bad as well. There is some studies that say they're actually worse than the emissions from an ICE engine. So where you stand on that, I don't know. I'm only repeating it. Of course, me saying, I assume that you're referring to my tweet. Kate's answer, I've no interest in your tweets, Barry. After you seem unable to respond to me, why would I? However, these advisories refer to discs that are on a very low mileage car being pitted and scored, not brake pads that cause pollution. Not brake pads that cause the pollution. Do you need me to explain how this works exactly? Again, little bit passive aggressive, Kate, but do you need me to explain to you? Because you are the one that's obviously not getting it. There's danger there's health issues, and there's also not being able to stop issues and running into a pedestrian issues. That's pretty unhealthy too. So again, it depends on your point of view. Somebody asked me a question, but I think they've deleted it now, deleted the question, but asked me why I bothered talking to her. So I answered, and I thought she would be able to answer one of my concerns about battery repairs, because I saw a tweet saying that her firm did them, which to be honest I think is good, rather than just replacing them. But I'm afraid she's chosen not to answer. It's no problem to me, but I haven't had a battery repaired there. Now, I'd already asked her, again on May the 28th, that was one of them that I'd sent. I have a couple. I've noticed that you repair EV batteries, which I think is brilliant, but how do you test the integrity of the casing? Serious question. Now, all I was worried about was there's a lot of EV write-offs, and it's usually due to the battery, because they're not sure of the integrity of the battery. And if water gets in, you end up with stuff like, or with salt water, end up with the car setting on fire and thermal runaway. So they write them off. And it's just a huge waste of money. If there was some way of testing these batteries properly and certifying them, then I thought it would be a great way. I'd seen on the internet that they replaced individual cells in the battery, and I wanted to know how they knew that when they put it back in the car, it wouldn't leak, it wouldn't let water in, and it wouldn't basically be in an inferno waiting to happen. That's what I wanted to know. So again, Barry, this is the 4th time I've asked you to clarify your question, of which you have chosen not to reply to. Please resend the question and I will answer it. I replied every time, how do you test the integrity of the batteries that you repair? Integrity of which components exactly? Do you mean SOH? It doesn't matter now, Kate, but thanks anyway. Why ask then? Do you want SOH, internal resistance, pack impedance, or something else? I have asked you 4 times, first time several days ago, as I had a business idea that I thought would be very profitable and ideal for your company. But since then, through our Twitter exchanges, I've decided that we wouldn't get on. That's... Now, Kate's not quite getting it there, that I'm a bit fed up now of a nasty tweets. Again, Barry, that's a disc. Are you struggling with this? You're actually spending your evening looking for counters. It's comedy. I've put it's not funny, I'm afraid. Basically, it's not. I think it's amusing that you think our tweet was anything to do with you. It's also amusing that although you know the actual facts, you try to counter the argument. Yes, it's funny. I've pointed out the facts using your stock, yet you still can't believe it. Where did I say I can't believe it? You pull up 3 EVs and think it amounts to substantiate your point. What our point highlights is the extra pollution and wear on ICE vehicles from friction material, brake dust, not a pitted or scored disc. Because of all the hoo-ha around Quentin saying there was discs do 100,000 miles when, clearly they don't. Exceptional cases they do. But exceptional cases of ICE cars, somebody who goes up and down the motorway and, brakes at the end and and doesn't use his brakes in between. They'll do 100,000 miles as well. But it's not the norm. Quentin says it's not unusual. I would say it is unusual. And going through all the MOTs, it does look unusual. Then Torchy, the battery doc, came up with on a podcast about burnishing. That's what you have to do. There's a few things. After I pointed out that these discs were rusting, the calipers were seizing up, with the rust and seizing up, your discs end up overheating and warping. That's due to uneven cooling. So what happens? Your pads are red hot. When you stop, when you park up, your pads are red hot because they've been rubbing on your discs. And the rest of the disc cools, except for where the pads are clamped on your disc. So everything else cools and that's red hot. Disc warp. Next time you drive, put your foot on the brake and you're like so. And wheels are like so. That's a byproduct of these EVs. So I pointed out to Torchy that, you know, he's just come up with burnishing now, but he published an article a couple of years ago about disc brakes lasting longer. I tracked his MOT down for the car that was using in a video, and guess what? There was advisories on the discs and so on, and they were nowhere near 100,000 miles. There was advisories on the tyres as well, from memory. Then Kate's I think it's a husband. I mean, to be fair, I hope it is a husband, because then it would mean that they couldn't spoil another pair. He tweeted me. We went through the conversation, and again I pointed out some things to him which he didn't like. Completely normal on these, and EVs with decent regen braking just need to grease the rear pads every 50,000 miles, as they do very little in real world use. I think I said, do you grease the discs too? Laughing boy here, no sense of humour. Well, I'm not going to say. Why would you make such a ridiculous statement? You are taking your singular car. I asked about Quentin's claim and the RAC's claim that it is not unusual for an EV that has covered 100,000 miles to still have original discs and pads. To me, not unusual would be over 50% of EVs MOT'd, serviced or available for sale. There are 16,498 used EVs for sale on AutoTrader. Only 69 have done over 100,000 miles. Is it not unusual for an everyday Joe Private to get 100,000 miles out of a set of discs and pads on an EV? You didn't have a case, Barry. You think you understand, but really you're a very poorly educated member of the motor trade. I kind of agree with that. I am poorly educated. However, I've learned more in the motor trade than I did at school. You know, I probably can't. I think it's meant to be an insult, but, you know, it's pretty true, really. Well, I had rested my case, but I say I also need to make a rebuttal. Educate yourself too. Read Cobalt Red. To be fair, you have an excellent business model, because you will have a job for life fixing these piles of shit. I've put, to be fair though, that's the first thing he's said that I agree with. Then he's come back with, I genuinely think you need some help. Your whole attitude is odd. Remember, nobody came to you with these articles and tweets. You jumped on them. Why is that? He replied to me. I never said a thing to him. So why is he come back to me? Why is that? Why do you think that is? Kate, I'll just tell you again. I didn't block you because of facts you gave me, or because it was a difficult conversation. I blocked you because I didn't like you. I don't like your husband either. I won't lose any sleep over it. But, you know, when you said that you don't think people take notice of me, you do. Your husband does. The Fully Charged show does. Everything Electric does. These EV shills do. And if you knew who'd phoned me up over the last couple of weeks asking advice from the companies, asking my thoughts, you would know that you were talking rubbish about that too. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.